Dance by the light of my moon. Okay, here we go. Hello there. With us once again is Paul, and now he brought Tony, and we're going to be talking about music, keeping it real, and having a lot of fun. Hello, guys. How are you?
Hey, good to see you.
Good. Good to see you guys, too. So Tony is new in my life.
Yes.
But you've known him for a while.
So, Paul, he's new in my life, too. Yeah, he's pretty new in my life. We met through a mutual friend, Bob McIntyre, who deserves a shout-out. And he knew that when he met Tony, and they reconnected, that he had introduced us because Tony started out as a musician, then was in sports his whole life, was a great athlete. And so I had a similar path growing up. I was a captain of my wrestling team and captain of my football team. No one would ever guess that or think that, but that's the truth.
I was working at West Hampton Beach High School as a coach and teaching at a local BOCES center. And Bob McIntyre, our mutual friend, was a young wrestling coach. He was maybe 20 or 21. I was a few years older, and the JV coach with the guy Paul Bass. And Bob would come down as a young kid, but at the same time I was a musician in studios, at night, playing around, touring. So he knew that world of mine. So then you fast forward to, today when I came back from LA, and I had a whole.
We met at Bob's son's wrestling meet.
Yeah.
Liam McIntyre, who just dominated the wrestling circuit.
Oh,
It's a funny thing because I've always been an athlete and a musician, so I'd be in band practice with my soccer shorts on and dirty cleats on the bass drum playing drums, you know what I mean, and stuff. So it was often the two would collide, those two
Now, was
worlds.
that your first instrument, drums?
Yeah.
It was my first instrument too.
Oh, really?
But I only
Mine
played,
too.
Oh, yours too?
Yeah.
But I only played in grade school. So like my parents went to go listen to my concert, and I was behind the big bass drum, so all they could hear me was going boom.
Oh, yeah.
Boom. They knew I was there, but I was
Right.
like hidden by it, right? I could still do a nice roll on the
Sure,
snare.
nice.
You know?
Yeah.
You should have
A
brought a
little bit of
snare.
this.
You could show it to us.
So yours was your first instrument.
Yeah, I was
drums
the
too,
cymbal
okay?
guy,
Oh, there you go.
Dun, 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 shh, dun, 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 shh. And the bass drum was like maybe 3 hits the whole song, Star Spangled Banner.
So you've had a wonderful career up to this point, and I know it's going to still continue. So you're a filmmaker, and you've had
Exactly.
some nice big hits.
Well,
So,
what I did basically was, I'm a musician in the clubs and trenches and all that kind of stuff, and I had some mutual friends that were in the film world. So one of them thought I was funny and had some wild music stories and stuff in the early '90s, and he said, "You know what? Why don't we write a movie about your experiences in a band?" And all these crazy stories you tell me all the time, we can maybe parlay it into something. So him and I sort of embarked. His name's Donnie Ward. He was my partner. He said, "Why don't you come to LA?" He had a TV series at the time, and we'll start banging out a little script on it. So I went out. I figured I'll be out there for a couple of months, and we started this idea about a band. And next thing I knew, I'm living there, and it took a 3-year period, and we wrote a movie called The Suburbans, and we thought it was just going to be a small little independent film, but our agents got it to Ben Stiller and Will Ferrell and Jennifer Love Hewitt, and suddenly
I know, right?
And J.J. Abrams produced it. J.J. Abrams, the director of Star Wars and Star Trek and stuff. Little names like that, all of a sudden, loved this script, and they all came aboard, and we made this really fun movie called The Suburbans. It came out on Sony Pictures, and it was a
hysterical
big
movie
release, and it was funny because it was sort of, I always say, I tried to be a rock star, and when that sort of became difficult to the point where I wasn't going to make it, I said, you know what, I'll just write a movie and make myself a rock star in the movie.
Oh, yeah.
Because I acted in it as well as wrote it, and I wrote the title track. So on the red carpet, I would say, well, now I achieved rock stardom in a fictional way.
So and you never know how you're going to get there.
Right.
I mean, the journey, even for me, has just been so joyful and so exciting.
Right.
And, I turn around and I look, I've had the show now for 10 years, and I look back and I say to myself, I'm like, oh my goodness, I can't believe all these amazing things that have happened to me. And I love sharing them. And that's what you guys are all about. You're sharing that. You're sharing the creative journey. You're sharing the fame. You're sharing the glory.
Well, what inspired me about Paul was, so I did that movie, and it carved out a good 20+ year career for me in acting and writing and stuff. So I did that, and then I did a documentary on the Beatles a year and a half ago that was well received at the Toronto Film Festival called The Sixth Beatle, right? So I'm slowing down in my career. I moved my family back to Long Island because I sold a property there, and I meet Paul, and he is still doing it.
Yep.
And at the same time, I joke with him. I'm like, but he's also just as entertaining off stage, if not more than on stage. So I'm observing this whole world in his house and the people that come in and out, and now being a filmmaker, I'm like, this is wild. I'm not sure what it is. but it's either some kind of docu-series or a documentary on the music scene on Long Island. So we're in the process of
it's formulating as we're going. But
let me just say this, not to joke, but I go to Paul's inspiring,
Yes.
and it's fascinating and sad and pathetic all at the same time. In a way, I relate to that myself, because playing in the clubs is a tough world, and we want to hopefully show. It looks great when you're up stage and he's entertaining the crowd, and he's one of the best at it anywhere. But behind the scenes can be fun also, but it's a very difficult.
And it's a really, really tough business. I mean, it's the better or more prominent you're becoming, the more people are going to hate on what you're doing and comment. You open yourself up, and I'm sure we all probably deal with this in a kind of a public forum, but from the comments, you know, you're too old, you know, you're kidding yourself. And so we all know, and believe me, there's a lot of self-doubt. I mean, I have a new band now, and that's been tough, you know. And it's just a really, really crazy journey. We did our, you know, our first opening season gig at Oakland's, and we had sound issues, and it was just a terrible gig. And then, you know, people are posting.
Well, there's a lot of parallels between the movie I wrote, because the Suburbans had a big hit, and then they try and make a comeback 25 years later. So it's a theme that's always sat with me, and we don't really like the parameters that the industry puts on you, that it's a young man's business or a young woman's business. It's music. We listen with our ears. Why should your age or anything matter, especially in that world?
And at some point, you know, you have to forge your own path. I mean, you have to do what you do. And as we're doing this and working together, because we have so many parallels, and it's like I found like a kindred spirit, because we relate on so many different things. Our sense of humor. And crazy things happen. Probably the opening scene will be something that really happened at our friend Ken Wallace's studio, in London studios.
Ken's
on the way back
studio,
from on the way back from the studio, let's just say my taillights were out.
Right.
We had a few libations in the studio, and we had a liaison with a sheriff, and it didn't go that great.
It didn't go
It went great for me. It didn't go great for Paul. I got to drive away.
I'm in purple platform shoes, you know, doing the walk.
The rock star thing,
yeah,
right?
the rock star
He
thing.
has these big purple platforms on, and I'm sitting in the car, and they say, "You don't move out of the car," and I can hear what's going on there, and I'm like, you know, they're like, "You want to walk the line in those things?"
Yeah, I ended up in cuffs.
You got to put a shot up of the shoes.
Absolutely, gotta, you know.
So,
you took a fashion tip, I guess, from Elton. Is that,
of course. You know, I had to go just at the part, you know.
We're joking about it, but this is the kind of stuff that goes on in a band's world.
Absolutely.
You know, we were in the recording studio till 1 o'clock in the morning. You know, we were drunk. We had a couple of glasses of wine. But I'm just saying, these are the ups and downs that I think is just as fascinating to document maybe now on film.
Absolutely.
It's not just fun and games when you're on stage and you're entertaining anybody. So that's sort of piqued my interest as a filmmaker. He's an interesting character.
And your music inspires people too. I didn't mean to interrupt you, but like you got this new song that's out, right?
Yeah, Don't Say Goodbye.
Yeah.
Released on Hickory Music, featuring Mike London, the very talented Mike London, and Jessica Washington from Hickory Music, who co-wrote it and co-produced it with me. And I went out to Vegas because this is before I met Tony. I've been working on this project for the last year, and I went out there to just kind of find myself a little bit, get back into writing in a way that I wasn't collaborating. And again, all the self-doubt and everything. I was out there writing for another artist that they had, and it wound up being such a great team that they were like, listen, you have to record this stuff. You're the artist. And I was like, nah, come on. You know, it's too old for that. And they're like, no, you got to do this.
Because you know what I think it is sometimes? Is your voice knows the song of your soul.
Sure. Right.
It's like it matches sometimes.
It does.
And even though you could be a great songwriter for other people, and I'm sure you've done that many times, there are certain songs that I think are like gifted to you because they're supposed to come forth from you. So let's take a look.
Yeah. Oh, good. Thank you.
Out of time, lost again in a modern English sound that I'm trying to confound. Using those you've left behind. I don't wanna run, I don't wanna play tonight. Don't ever say goodbye.
So what was the inspiration for this?
Well, this was a very unique and different writing experience in that I usually go in with a song fully fleshed out, lyrics, and then go in and record it. This whole process for me was completely different, out of my comfort zone, and probably one of the greatest experiences. Because what we did is we would just put music on, and we'd start to write, and they all got written on the spot, in the moment, and then we'd kind of hash out the lyrics, and it was a great creative team.
Wow.
Yeah. So, and it was just such a great thing for me to kind of get out of, you know, my usual way of writing, because, you know, it's got it, you know, I've got my own way of telling a story, and
You know,
collaborate
and I've
that
tried,
way.
you know,
Yeah.
it's me getting into Paul's life here the last few months and stuff too, and you know, there's in the music scene, again, something that fascinates me as a filmmaker and a storyteller. You know, when you go in a band, especially on Long Island, you know, we have cover music bands, and there's an original route you can take doing your own songs, and there's a period where as a crossroads comes, I'm going to be a cover band and make the instant money, or I'm going to put that same energy into being an original artist. And we've had so many from Long Island, from Billy Joel to and on up. So I'm hoping to be an inspiration, because his original stuff is so good. To not to kind of veer out of that club scene doing other people's music. When we were at Kenny's that infamous night, you know, he had these great medleys of all these cover tunes, and we were like, you know what, man, go after your own stuff.
Yep.
Follow through on that video. Those couple of tunes you did in Vegas are killer. Just let's really put a push and kind of highlight those new tunes. And you know what? You have a voice like an angel. Well, and that Michael Strahan said that on that. What's that show?
Kelly and Michael. Yeah.
Kelly and Michael. Strahan saw him in Jersey at an event, and on live TV just shouted him out. He's that good. So
you really are that good.
Thank you.
You know, and sometimes I think that we need other people kind of to tell us, almost to give us permission to just do our thing.
Yeah.
Like, hey, I believe in you. Go do your thing.
Exactly.
Well, sometimes the people that are closest to you can wind up being some of the ones holding you back, in a sense.
Sure.
That I started really gaining a lot of self-doubt in the cover world, like, and I really kept reiterating on over and over again, I don't want to be in a cover band. I love the songs that I do.
Of course.
Don't get me wrong.
Right.
And I love the places that we play and all the great people that we meet. But I never got into this to be in a cover band and be the best cover band.
But it's very seductive. You can get pulled into that world, make good money.
It's a consistent gig,
People
right?
love you.
You know, I navigated those waters very early on, because I got signed to Tommy Boy Records while I was in Long Island in a cover band, along with you know, my friends like in 9 Days that were doing the same type of thing. So it was like a moment in time. I was probably one of the last traditional signings, because within 8 months, the whole industry had changed, it collapsed, and I was back to doing covers with the #1 song in Germany, and crazy things like that. So it's kind of been like a weird life in that regard, where it's like, I have a #1 song in Germany, but no label anymore. I had to buy my record back from the label so I could release it, but there was nowhere to put it. And there I am back at the places that I thought, I'm on my way. I'm going to make it, you know. And you know, and it's hard not to let those things, you know, make you disenchanted or bitter, or you know. And I never felt like people would be like, "Oh, you deserve it." And I always felt if somebody says you deserve it, it gives you a release of like, well, then I don't have to do the work. And I'm still working harder now than I ever was.
Right.
And I love the work. That's the thing. Well, him and I relate on too. Like, him and I'll go work on a scene or do something, and coming up with these ideas.
Well, we also said like the process is also the art too. So like what we hope to do by documenting his journey throughout this summer and some of the other bands is sort of tear down the fourth wall, like, you know, like in a studio, right? Well, everybody here is watching us. We want to flip the camera onto that side and watch how we can kind of follow his original career taking off, and maybe slowly moving from the cover music and in that world, because it's fascinating. There's just the process of creating and going after your dream, even if it is 30 years after when he started.
And you know, and once you achieve a dream, because you guys have achieved a lot of things in your life too, then you say, okay, well, now it's time for a new dream, right? And
what next?
But the dream never
dreamers
dies.
and doers, exactly.
You know,
it never dies,
so what,
nor
it's
should
30
it.
years later, he's just as good now as he was when he was
I haven't
a
even
young
stopped,
man.
so I don't know what the difference is, and I don't know anything else. So it is kind of this naive, you know.
But that's a gift.
Stay that way.
The naivete
Stay
is
that
a
way,
gift.
right, Tony?
You don't want to know
Stay
too
that
much
way.
about
I feel
the business.
feel truthfully, like I feel the same. Like I don't like if I feel like I'm performing the same. And if you put me up against a 20-year-old and we were on stage together, I wouldn't feel threatened in the least. I would perform the way I perform, and it's with reckless abandon, and it's full on 100% heart, soul, passion, blood, sweat, tears. Everything comes with it,
So when I said it's inspiring and tragic at the same time, it's because sadly the state of the industry is like if you're not 21 years old and a cover person, you don't have a chance. But we want to break that barrier
and that's
down.
what we're going to do.
And
and make it happen.
He's one of the best. So.
And my audience, they so relate to that because they're people just like us. They're the dreamers, they're the doers, they're like the cool people, right? The happy, like,
Hey,
let's
listen,
make it
I'm
happen.
I'm a guy from Shirley,
Right.
who went to William Floyd High School, and wrote a movie that has the biggest movie
Names.
stars
Yeah.
in it. And so
biggest director now in Hollywood.
You can be from anywhere. Everybody's just like us.
They are.
And, everybody deserves to follow their dream, even if it's 20, 30, 50 years later in life. So.
Well, I look at Barbara Walters' career and I say, wow, she's 90 and she's still doing it. I'm like, okay, I get
You got time.
I'm not going to quit. Why get a real job, right?
Right.
You guys, thank you very much for joining us. So
Thank
cool.
you.
All right. We hope you enjoyed this behind the scenes look at what's going on. Tony Guma and Paul Mahos. So stay tuned for more. Live it up. Woo! Let me dance.
Yeah.